Welcome back to Biology at Jay's house. Today we're going to do a quick introduction to the digestive system video. You don't have to take any notes, just let the information wash over you. We'll loop back around and go into all this information much more deeply. So let's start off with blood. If we remember correctly, the red stuff that comes out when we get cuts can be separated into 4 parts, 2 of which are obvious when you separate them. And then the platelets and the white blood cells are right there at that barrier. But if we remember correctly, the red stuff at the bottom, that stuff is your red blood cells. They come in 4 different flavors, one of which of course is B right there, and their entire job is to get oxygen into your blood. And what about get rid of carbon dioxide? They do that too, but I don't really want to focus on that right now. So the 3 things that we need to live, oxygen's one of them, red blood cells carry it, and that's the red part of your blood. Wait, which system does that? That's right, that's the respiratory system. So if we think of blood as kind of bottom and top, the bottom part, the red blood cells, which are the heaviest and biggest parts of your blood, that is taken care of by the respiratory system. They are the ones that acquire the air to attach to the red blood cells, and then the blood takes it absolutely everywhere. Now, if I remember correctly, the other stuff is called plasma. And plasma, if I remember correctly, is 2 things. It is all the water that is in your blood, and it is all the nutrients that are in your blood. So all the water and all the nutrients are in the plasma. But how the heck does the water and the nutrients get into your blood? I have no idea. I wonder which system brings the water and the nutrients into the blood. Oh, that's right, it's the digestive system. So what we're going to be talking about in this unit is how do we fill this part of the blood up? How do we get all that water? How do we get all those nutrients? And then the blood will take it around just as this respiratory system collects the air for our entire system. The digestive system collects the water and the nutrients for every cell in your body. But how does that work? That's a really good question. Let's figure it out. Well, we know when we breathe, the air ultimately goes into our lungs, all the way down to the very end of our lungs, which is called alveoli, and that's where the air enters the blood by going into capillaries. Now, if we think of the digestive system, so there's your nose, there's your mouth, there's your chin, there's the back of your head. And if we think of the digestive system, wow, you have a long arm. It all happens in kind of the torso or thorax, which is fun to say, right? Food goes in, goes down, and we'll get through all the parts of, it goes down the esophagus, assuming the epiglottis tells it to go there instead of down the trachea. Like, we'll get to all that bit. And it goes into your stomach. And your stomach looks a little bit like this if it was drawn by somebody who had more skills. So, it goes into your stomach, and your stomach does some stuff with it, and then it goes into your intestines. Let me draw your intestines. Here's your small intestine. And notice how accurately I'm drawing your small intestine. It does look a lot like that, actually. And then it leaves your small intestine and goes into your large intestine. Now, excuse me, it turns out I'm allergic to work. Now, your large intestine takes a very clear path. The large intestine is very easy to identify because the large intestine and let me clear a little space for it. The large intestine looks a lot like this. And then out the exit. The large intestine is large, as in it is wide. That's what makes it large, not long. It literally just goes kind of up from your hip, across your belly, down to basically your other hip, and then out the exit. That's it. It's really rather short compared to the super long small intestine. So if we were going to follow the path of food goes initially into the mouth. It gets all chewed up and all that good stuff. Comes down to the stomach. Then enters the small intestine. And then enters the large intestine. And then it leaves. So that is the order. First it hits the stomach, then it hits the small intestine, then it hits the large intestine and leaves. And these three organs really make up the bulk of the digestive system. Yes, there's a bunch of stuff that happens in the mouth. You got teeth, you got glands, you got a bunch of stuff happening in the mouth. But this is what I want to focus on. Now, when we get into kind of the weeds of this unit, we'll spend a bunch of time in the mouth also. But I want you to highlight this stuff. Now, what does all this stuff do? That's a good question. The stomach breaks up food. Its primary job is, hey, it's full of acid. That's right. Terrible burny acid, like in alien movies, resides in your stomach. There is actual acid in there. Hydrochloric acid, nonetheless. So it breaks up food chemically. It uses that acid and breaks it all into its tiny little bits. We call those tiny little bits, they have a scientific name, nutrients, assuming that's, stuff supposed to be in your body. If you're eating a bunch of plastic, it's not going to break it up, sorry. And then it goes into your small intestine. And what does your small intestine do? That absorbs nutrients. So the entire reason that you have this huge coil is actually just to take nutrients from your food and put it into your bloodstream. That's the purpose of the small intestine. I wonder why the small intestine is so long. Oh, that's right. By being super long, we can absorb a lot of nutrients. If it was a really small organ or short organ, the food wouldn't have much time. The body wouldn't have much time to absorb the nutrients from the food. So let's make it super long so we get a bunch of nutrients out of it. That's why it's long. And then, what about the large intestine? Well, if I remember correctly, we need three things to live. 1, oxygen. Respiratory system takes care of that. 2, nutrients. Small intestine takes care of that. 3, water. And the large intestine absorbs water. So the whole point of the large intestine, this little path right there, is to absorb water and put it into our bloodstream. So, oh, hey, there's the nutrients in the water that we need. Right on. Now, why don't we absorb the water earlier? Why don't we absorb the water first? Because then it'd be really hard for the food to go through all the tubes if it was, dry. So what we do is we grab the water right before it leaves so that it can be nice and wet and sluice through all this stuff. And then we grab the water right before it leaves and we kick it out. That is the introduction to the digestive system. We absorb nutrients through this big, long thing called a small intestine. We absorb water through the wider but shorter large intestine. They go into the blood, and the mailman picks them up at capillaries. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the water. That's our circulatory system. Thank you for the nutrients. And off it goes to take them all over the body. That's all I got for you. Good luck.